A scream. A slammed door. A confession whispered through tears. I believed the truth always arrived loud enough to hear it coming. I was wrong. Sometimes betrayal moves in quietly, wearing the face of loyalty, friendship, and love. Sometimes it sits across from you on the couch, drinks your wine, laughs at your jokes, and asks you to lie for it. And sometimes, you do. My name is Rachel Moore. I'm 32 years old. And until last fall, I believed I was living a stable, honest life built on trust and effort and shared history. I believed the people closest to me were exactly who they claimed to be. I believed my best friend would never hurt me. I believed my partner would never betray me. Those beliefs didn't shatter all at once. They cracked slowly, hairline fractures spreading through everything I thought I knew, until one day the entire structure collapsed under the weight of the truth. But before any of that happened, before suspicion or silence or revenge, there was friendship. And there was loyalty. And there was a promise we made when we were barely adults, swearing we would never become the kind of people who destroy each other. I met Lauren when I was 19. We were assigned the same dorm room our first year of college. A narrow space with chipped white walls, mismatched furniture, and a single window that barely opened. She arrived with 2 suitcases and a nervous smile. I arrived with 1 suitcase and no idea who I was supposed to become. We bonded fast. Too fast, maybe. Trauma does that to people. She had grown up in a house where love came with conditions. I came from a family that fell apart quietly and never put itself back together. Late at night, we'd lie on our beds and talk about the future like it was something we could design if we talked long enough. Careers. Cities. The kind of partners we wanted. The kind of lives we were afraid we'd never have. Lauren was there when my parents finalized their divorce. She held my hand in the courthouse bathroom while I cried so hard I could barely breathe. I was there when her first serious boyfriend cheated on her with a coworker and told her it just happened. I helped her box his clothes. I reminded her of her worth. I told her she deserved better. We weren't just friends. We were witnesses to each other's worst moments. That's why when she called me one night last year, past midnight, voice shaking, breath uneven, I didn't hesitate. I answered immediately. "Rach," she said, her voice breaking. "I messed up." I sat up in bed, my heart already racing. "What happened?" "I can't talk about it here," she whispered. "Can I come over?" 20 minutes later, she was sitting on my couch, knees pulled to her chest, mascara smudged beneath her eyes. I handed her a glass of water. She didn't touch it. She stared at the floor like it might open up and swallow her. "I'm seeing someone," she said finally. I waited. "A guy," she continued. "And it's wrong." That word stuck with me. Wrong. I asked her the obvious questions. Was he married? Was he dangerous? Was he using her? She shook her head. "It's complicated." That should have been my first warning. He told me he was older. Emotionally unavailable. That he hated labels and avoided conversations about the future. She said he could only see her late at night because of his job. That he never stayed over. Never posted photos. Never introduced her to anyone. She didn't say his name. When I asked, she flinched. "I can't," she said. "Not yet." I didn't push. As I trusted her. She said being with him made her feel alive in a way she hadn't felt in years. She said she hated herself for it. That she knew it wouldn't end well. "I just need someone on my side," she whispered. "Please." So that was my mistake. At first the favors were small. She asked if she could tell people she was with me when she wasn't. Asked if I could cover for her if anyone called. Asked if she could say she'd slept at my place instead of admitting she'd gone out late again. I said yes. Every time. I told myself it was temporary. That she'd end it soon. That friends help each other through mistakes. What I didn't realize was that every lie I told for her rewired something inside me. I started normalizing deception. Justifying secrecy. Excusing behavior I would have condemned in anyone else. Loyalty, when left unchecked, becomes self-betrayal. Meanwhile, my own life moved forward on the surface. I had been with Ethan for almost 4 years. We met through mutual friends. He was calm, reliable, steady in a way that felt grounding after years of emotional chaos. We lived together. We talked about buying a house. We talked about kids someday. He worked long hours. Consulting. Lots of late nights. Travel. Deadlines that shifted without warning. I never questioned it. Because trust, once established, feels invisible. Lauren talked about her mystery man more as time passed. Little details slipped out when she relaxed. His coffee order. His laugh. The way he rubbed his thumb against his ring finger when he was thinking. I didn't notice at first. Or maybe I noticed and didn't want to know. One night she laughed and said, "He says relationships just complicate things." I smiled reflexively. Because Ethan had said the exact same words once, early in our relationship. Same tone. Same phrasing. The thought crossed my mind like a flicker of static, and disappeared just as quickly. I told myself I was being paranoid. People repeat phrases. People overlap. The world is smaller than we think. Still, something shifted. I started paying closer attention. Lauren mentioned that he hated loud restaurants. Preferred dim corners. That he worked late on Thursdays. That he never answered calls after 9. Ethan worked late on Thursdays. I didn't confront either of them. Because confronting the truth would mean risking everything I believed was stable. So I stayed quiet. And silence fed the lie. The moment everything changed came on an ordinary afternoon. Lauren and I were sitting at a coffee shop near my apartment. She was unusually relaxed, scrolling through her phone, smiling at messages she wasn't showing me. She mentioned his watch. Just casually, like it meant nothing. "A silver one," she said. "Old. Scratched. He never takes it off. Says it reminds him of someone who mattered." My chest tightened. Because 3 years earlier I had bought Ethan a silver watch for his birthday. It had arrived with a small scratch near the clasp. He'd laughed it off, said it gave it character. I stared at Lauren, my pulse pounding so loudly I was sure she could hear it. I forced a smile. That night Ethan came home late. He kissed my forehead. Apologized. Said work was insane. He took off his jacket and tossed it over a chair. The watch caught the light. Same scratch. Same place. I felt something inside me shut down. Not explode, not collapse, just go silent. That was the moment I understood. I wasn't helping my best friend hide an affair. I was helping her hide mine. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't confront him. I watched. I listened. I started tracking patterns. Dates. Times. Excuses. Lauren's sleepovers lined up perfectly with Ethan's late nights. Their lies fit together like puzzle pieces designed to interlock. They weren't reckless. They were practiced. And that realization cut deeper than the betrayal itself. I began saving everything. Messages Lauren sent me. Voice notes she left when she assumed I was still on her side. Screenshots she didn't realize were evidence. I let them feel safe. Because people reveal everything when they believe they're untouchable. And then Lauren invited everyone over for drinks. Just something casual, she said. Nothing serious. Ethan agreed immediately. And I smiled. Because by then I already knew exactly what I was going to do. But what I didn't know, what I couldn't have known, was that Lauren had been lying about something else too. Something that would change the game entirely. Something I wouldn't discover until the night of that gathering, when I overheard a single sentence whispered in the kitchen that made my stomach drop and my hands go cold. And in that moment I realized this wasn't just betrayal. It was something far worse. The sentence reached me before I reached it. I was standing in the hallway outside Lauren's kitchen, holding an empty wine glass when I heard my name. Not spoken loudly. Not meant for me. Ethan's voice was low, controlled. The voice he used when he didn't want to be overheard. "She can't find out like this," he said. Lauren laughed softly. "Nervous. Relax. Rachel trusts me. She always has." There was a pause. The kind that stretches just long enough to mean something. Ethan spoke again. This was supposed to stay temporary. Temporary. My fingers tightened around the glass so hard I thought it might crack. For a second the room tilted. The music from the living room sounded far away, distorted like it was playing underwater. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. Lauren replied, her tone sharper now. You said you were going to tell her. I said I would figure it out, Ethan snapped. There's a difference. Tell her what? I leaned closer to the wall, my heart hammering. My pulse was loud in my ears, but they didn't notice. They were too focused on themselves. On whatever secret they thought they still controlled. Lauren sighed. You promised me, Ethan. I'm tired of being hidden. Hidden. The word settled in my chest like a weight. Ethan lowered his voice even more. This isn't the time. She's already stressed. If this blows up now. Lauren interrupted him. It's already blown up. You just don't know it yet. That made my stomach drop. I stepped back before either of them could come out of the kitchen and see me standing there. I walked into the bathroom, closed the door, locked it, and leaned against the sink. My reflection stared back at me. Calm. Too calm. I didn't cry. Instead, my mind started moving faster than my body. The betrayal I'd been bracing for, catching them, exposing them, ending it, suddenly felt incomplete. There was something else here. Something deeper. They weren't just cheating. They were planning. I splashed cold water on my face and studied myself in the mirror. My hands were steady. My breathing even. Whatever shock I'd expected never came. Shock is for people who don't already know the truth. When I stepped back into the living room, the party was still going. Music. Laughter. People sipping drinks, unaware they were sitting inside the remains of my life. Lauren emerged from the kitchen moments later, smiling too brightly. Ethan followed, his expression carefully neutral. He met my eyes for a split second and looked away. Confirmation. I took a sip of wine and watched them from across the room like they were strangers. Like I was observing an experiment I'd already predicted the outcome of. Lauren gravitated toward me eventually. He always did. Old habits. You okay? She asked. You disappeared. Bathroom line, I said easily. You know how it is. She nodded, relieved. I'm glad you came tonight. It means a lot. I studied her face. The woman who had slept beside me in dorm rooms. The woman who had cried in my arms. The woman who had sworn she would never lie to me. What are friends for? I said. The words tasted bitter. That night, after the guests left and the door closed behind them, Ethan tried to kiss me. I let him. I needed to see if it felt different now that I knew. It didn't. Which scared me more than anything. He pulled back, searching my face. You seem quiet. Just tired, I said. He nodded, satisfied. I have an early meeting. I might stay late again tomorrow. Of course. When he fell asleep, I stayed awake. I replayed the kitchen conversation in my head. Every word. Every pause. This was supposed to stay temporary. Tell her. This blows up now. They weren't just afraid of being caught. They were afraid of timing. Of consequences they hadn't finished preparing for. Which meant they were planning something. The next morning I texted Lauren. Me coffee later? Her reply came quickly. Lauren, of course, red heart. We met at the same coffee shop as always. Same table. Same drinks. Familiar enough to feel safe. She talked about nothing. Work drama. A show she'd been binge watching. The weather. I waited. Finally I asked casually, so, are you still seeing him? Her eyes flickered. Just for a second. Yeah, she said. It's complicated. I nodded. Is he ever going to leave whoever he's with? She hesitated too long. I don't know, she admitted. He says he needs time. I stirred my coffee slowly. And you're okay with that? Her jaw tightened. I love him. There was. I looked at her and felt something shift permanently inside me. Not anger. Not sadness. Detachment. Does he love you? I asked. Lauren smiled. A small, hopeful smile that broke my heart in a way I hadn't expected. He says he does. I thought of Ethan's voice in the kitchen. Controlled. Irritated. Afraid of disruption. I thought of the way he kissed me without guilt. I reached across the table and squeezed her hand. Just be careful. He squeezed back. I trust him. I almost laughed. Over the next few days I started noticing things I'd ignored before. Lauren's sudden interest in my finances. Casual questions about the mortgage Ethan and I were planning to apply for. Comments about how expensive my apartment must be on one income. Ethan started bringing up logistics. What would happen if one of us moved for work? How we'd split things if something ever changed. They weren't just sleeping together. They were discussing futures. Without me. I went through Ethan's laptop while he showered one evening. I didn't feel guilty. Privacy is a privilege trust earns. I found emails. Drafts he hadn't sent. Notes about transition plans. A document titled Options. Inside it were bullet points. Living arrangements. Financial separation. Timing considerations. Lauren's name appeared more than once. I closed the laptop gently and sat on the bed, my hands folded in my lap. This wasn't an affair spiraling out of control. This was a strategy. That night I cried for the first time. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just enough to mourn the version of myself who had believed in them. The next morning I made a decision. If they were planning a future without me, I would let them. On my terms. I stopped asking questions. Stopped reacting. I became easier. Calmer. Trusting. I let Lauren vent about the stress of being the other woman, nodded sympathetically, reassured her I'd always be there. I let Ethan talk about work, kissed him goodbye, told him I loved him. All the while I was documenting everything. Dates. Messages. Financial records. Conversations. And then something unexpected happened. Lauren asked me for help. We were walking through a park when she stopped suddenly and turned to me. I need to ask you something, she said. Okay. He swallowed. If someone needed a place to stay. Temporarily. Would you help? My heart skipped, but my face didn't change. Who? I asked. She hesitated. A friend. Of course. Depends on the situation, I said carefully. She exhaled. What if I told you it was someone leaving a relationship? Someone who doesn't feel safe anymore. I almost admired her nerve. I tilted my head. Emotionally or physically? Emotionally, she said quickly. He's not a bad person. Just complicated. I nodded slowly. You mean him? She didn't deny it. I don't know how much longer I can do this, she whispered. Being hidden. Waiting. And he won't leave her, I said. Her eyes filled with tears. He says he will. There was again that hope. I took her hands. Lauren. If he wanted to, he already would have. She flinched. I'm just saying, I continued gently, you deserve more than promises. She pulled away, wiping her face. I know. I just don't know what to do. I watched her struggle with the reality she didn't want to face. And then I said the words that sealed everything. If you need a place, I said quietly, you can stay with me. Her head snapped up. Really? Of course, I said. You're my best friend. That night I lay awake staring at the ceiling. Because now I knew. They weren't just betraying me. They were preparing to replace me. And I had just invited the storm directly into my home. But what they didn't realize, what they couldn't see yet, was that I was no longer reacting. I was orchestrating. And the next move wouldn't be subtle. It would be irreversible. Because the moment Lauren stepped into my apartment with her suitcase, pretending she was escaping heartbreak, was the moment I would finally stop protecting them and start destroying everything they thought they'd secured. Lauren moved into my apartment on a Tuesday. She showed up with a medium-sized suitcase, a tote bag slung over her shoulder, and red-rimmed eyes that suggested she'd been crying just enough to look convincing. I stood in the doorway and watched her hesitate, like she was waiting for me to change my mind. I didn't. I stepped aside and let her in. Thank you, she said softly, like this was an act of kindness and not the most intimate invasion imaginable. Of course, I replied. You know you're always welcome. That was the first lie of many I would tell with a smile. He chose the guest room. The one Ethan and I had talked about turning into a nursery someday. I helped her make the bed. Gave her extra towels. Showed her where everything was. I played the role perfectly. That night, Ethan came home later than usual. Lauren was already in the shower. The sound of running water echoed down the hallway like a countdown. Ethan froze when he saw her suitcase by the door. "What's this?" he asked, keeping his voice steady. "My best friend," I said easily. "She's staying for a bit." His eyes flicked toward the bathroom, then back to me. "Why?" "She needed somewhere safe," I said. Emotionally. The word landed exactly where I wanted it to. He nodded slowly. "How long?" "I'm not sure," I said. "A while maybe." I watched him swallow. That night, I lay between them in the dark. Lauren in the guest room, Ethan beside me, feeling like the axis of a cruel experiment. Neither of them knew what to do next. And that was the point. The first few days passed in a strange, suffocating calm. Lauren played the part of the wounded woman. Quiet, grateful, apologetic for being a burden. She cooked dinners, cleaned up after herself, thanked me constantly. Ethan became more attentive than he'd been in months. More affectionate. He brought home flowers. Asked about my day. Touched me like he was trying to re-establish ownership. Guilt looks like effort. I let it. I watched them interact like actors forced into the same stage play, both pretending the script hadn't changed. Lauren avoided being alone with Ethan. At least when I was around. Their stolen glances happened quickly. Charged. Afraid. At night I listened. The walls were thin enough to hear her pacing sometimes. The soft buzz of her phone. The whispered conversations she thought I couldn't make out. Ethan started taking longer showers. Spending more time on calls outside. Everything was tightening. I started setting traps. Nothing obvious. Just small shifts. One morning over coffee I mentioned casually that I'd been thinking about marriage again. Ethan stiffened slightly. "Oh. Yeah," I said. "I feel like we've been stuck in place for a while." "Don't you?" Lauren's spoon clinked against her mug. Ethan forced a smile. "I guess. It's just timing." "Timing." Lauren looked down. I smiled. Later that afternoon I told Lauren I'd been researching couples counseling. That Ethan and I had a few things to work through. Her face went pale. "That's good," she said after a pause. "Healthy." I nodded. "I think so too." That night I heard her crying quietly into her pillow. Not loud enough to draw attention. Loud enough to be real. I should have felt something. I didn't. Because the more they suffered in silence, the clearer everything became. This wasn't about love. It was about possession. Fear. Control. A week later, Ethan slipped up. He left his phone on the kitchen counter when he went to shower. I hadn't even been looking for it. But when Lauren walked past and her steps faltered for half a second, I knew. After she disappeared into the guest room, I picked it up. No lock. Messages from Lauren were hidden in an archived thread. Dozens of them. I scrolled slowly, deliberately. Her words were desperate. "I can't do this anymore. She's right there, Ethan. Every day. You said this was temporary. When are you going to tell her?" His replies were shorter. Colder. "Be patient. This is complicated. You're overreacting." Overreacting. I felt a flicker of something then. Not anger. Resolve. I screenshotted everything. Sent it to myself. Put the phone back exactly where it had been. When Ethan came out of the shower, I was sitting at the table scrolling on my own phone. "Everything okay?" he asked. "Perfect," I said. That night, Lauren knocked on my bedroom door. I pretended to be half asleep when I opened it. "Hey," she whispered. "Can I talk to you?" I stepped aside. She sat on the edge of the bed, hands twisting together. "I feel awful," she said. "Being here. With everything you and Ethan are going through." I waited. "I just don't want to get in the way," she added. I sat beside her. "You're not." She looked at me, eyes glossy. "You're such a good person, Rachel." That almost made me laugh. "I try," I said. She hesitated. "Do you ever worry that people you trust might hurt you?" I turned to her slowly. "All the time." Her breath hitched. I don't know what I'd do if you ever stopped trusting me, she said. I reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, the same way she used to do for me. I don't see that happening, I said softly. She nodded, relieved. After she left, I sat on the bed for a long time. This was the moment I knew. She wasn't just afraid of losing Ethan. She was afraid of losing me. And that fear was going to be my leverage. Over the next few weeks, I began laying the groundwork. I encouraged Lauren to open up, to talk about her feelings, to admit how trapped she felt. I encouraged Ethan to talk about exit plans, to think about logistics, to be honest with himself. They both thought I was on their side. They were wrong. One evening, I invited Ethan to sit down with me. I've been thinking, I said, about us. He braced himself. I could see it in his shoulders. I love you, I continued. But I don't want to trap you in something that isn't right. His eyes widened slightly. I mean it, I said. If there's something you need to tell me, I want honesty, even if it hurts. For a moment I thought he might confess. Instead he took my hand. There's nothing you don't already know. That sealed his fate. A few days later, Lauren told me she was considering moving out. I can't stay here forever, she said. It's not fair to you. I nodded sympathetically. I understand. She bit her lip. Ethan thinks maybe we should stop seeing each other. At least for now. I raised an eyebrow. Do you want to? She shook her head. No. Then why would you? I asked gently. Her eyes filled with tears. Because I'm tired of waiting. I leaned in. What if you didn't have to? She looked at me confused. I mean, I continued carefully, what if things changed sooner than you think? Hope lit her face like a match. What do you mean? I smiled. Sometimes life forces decisions. That night I sent an email. Not to Ethan. Not to Lauren. To a lawyer. A family law attorney recommended by a coworker. I framed it as a consultation. Just exploring options. Nothing dramatic. I didn't tell anyone. Because once lawyers get involved, games become real. The final push came unexpectedly. One afternoon I came home early. Lauren was supposed to be out. Ethan was supposed to be at work. Instead I heard voices. I stood just outside the apartment door, keys in hand, listening. Lauren was crying. You said you were going to leave her, she whispered. I can't just blow up my life, Ethan replied. You already did, she said. You just haven't admitted it yet. Silence. Then Ethan spoke. We need to be careful. She's not stupid. Lauren sniffed. She trusts us. That was when I opened the door. They jumped apart like guilty teenagers. Oh, I said lightly. Am I interrupting? Ethan stammered. Lauren froze. I smiled. I forgot my laptop. I walked past them, picked it up, and left again without another word. But something had changed. The illusion was cracked. That night Ethan tried to explain. Tried to spin it. Tried to gaslight me into believing what I had heard wasn't what it sounded like. I let him talk. Lauren avoided me entirely. And in that silence, something new emerged. Fear. Because now they knew I was close. Too close. What they didn't know, what they couldn't possibly imagine, was that I had already taken the first irreversible step. The lawyer called me the next morning. And the first thing she said was, Rachel, there's something you need to be prepared for. My stomach tightened. Because whatever she was about to say meant this was no longer just about betrayal. It was about fallout. And once fallout begins, no one walks away clean. The lawyer's voice was calm. Too calm. Rachel, she said, before we go any further, I need to ask, are you legally married or is this a domestic partnership? Married, I said. 5 years. There was a pause on the line. Paper shuffling. Okay, she continued. Then there are implications you need to understand. Property, shared accounts, and, depending on timing, grounds. Grounds for what? I asked even though I already knew. For fault, she said. Infidelity. The word landed differently when a professional said it. Not emotional. Not dramatic. Clinical. Permanent. I stared out the window at the street below, Watching people walk past with groceries and dogs and plans for the evening. Normal lives. Lives not quietly collapsing. What do I need to be prepared for? I asked. He didn't hesitate. Once this becomes formal, everything changes. Your husband will protect himself. Anyone involved will protect themselves. People lie more when there's something to lose. I thought of Ethan's careful silences. Lauren's tears. The way both of them had already been rewriting reality. I understand, I said. Good, she replied. Then my advice is simple. Don't confront anyone yet. Secure documents, accounts, evidence. And whatever you do, don't tip your hand. I ended the call and sat there for a long time. This was no longer about heartbreak. This was about survival. That evening, Ethan came home earlier than usual. He looked tense. Wired. Like someone bracing for impact. We need to talk, he said. I nodded. Okay. He paced the living room once before stopping in front of me. What you saw earlier, it wasn't what you think. I tilted my head. Then tell me what it was. He opened his mouth. Closed it. Tried again. Lauren's having a hard time. She needed support. From you, I said. He rubbed his face. You're reading into things. I almost admired the commitment. I heard my name, I said calmly. I heard you telling her to be careful because I'm not stupid. He froze. That's not, he started then stopped. Silence stretched between us. Heavy. Loaded. Finally, he said, I didn't want to hurt you. There was. The sentence people use when they've already decided to. I nodded slowly. Then why did you? His shoulders sagged. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. Temporary. Timing. Complicated. I stood up. I'm going for a walk. He reached for me. I stepped back. That night I slept in the guest room. Lauren didn't come out of her room at all. The next morning I moved quietly. I opened a new bank account in my name only. Changed passwords. Copied documents. Tax returns. Mortgage paperwork. Insurance policies. I photographed everything. Lauren watched me from the doorway once, her face pale. Are you okay? She asked. Fine, I said. Just organizing. She nodded, unconvinced. By the end of the week, the house felt like a war zone after the fighting stopped. No one said what they meant. Everyone waited for someone else to move first. So I did. I invited them both to sit down. Ethan sat stiffly on one end of the couch. Lauren perched on the armchair, hands clenched in her lap. I'm going to say something, I began, and I want you to listen. Not interrupt. Not explain. Just listen. Neither of them spoke. I know about the affair, I said. Lauren gasped. Ethan's jaw tightened. I know how long it's been going on, I continued. I know where you met. I know the lies you told. The plans you made. Lauren started crying. Real crying this time. Ethan stood up. Rachel. I held up my hand. I'm not finished. I looked at Lauren. You moved into my home while sleeping with my husband. You looked me in the eye and let me comfort you. She sobbed. I never meant to hurt you. I turned to Ethan. And you let me protect her. Lie for her. While you decided when it would be convenient to leave me. He stared at the floor. I'm not here to argue, I said. I'm here to inform you. I took a folder from the table and set it down. I've spoken to a lawyer, I said. I have evidence. Messages. Records. Timelines. Lauren's head snapped up. Rachel, please. If either of you tries to spin this, I said calmly, or deny it or make me the villain, I will let the truth speak for itself. Publicly. Legally. Ethan swallowed hard. I'm filing for divorce, I said. Effective immediately. Lauren broke down completely. Ethan finally looked at me. What do you want? That question told me everything. I want you out, I said. Both of you. Tonight. Lauren looked at Ethan, panic flooding her face. You said. He didn't look back at her. That was the moment she realized. She wasn't chosen. She was convenient. They left that night. Lauren tried to hug me. I stepped back. Ethan tried to apologize. I closed the door. The silence afterward was deafening. But it was clean. In the weeks that followed, the truth spread. Not because I screamed it, but because lies don't survive daylight. Friends asked questions. Stories didn't line up. Ethan's explanations shifted. Lauren disappeared from social circles. The divorce moved quickly. Evidence has a way of accelerating things. Ethan lost the house. Lost friends. Lost the version of himself that believed he could control outcomes. Lauren tried to reach out. Long messages. Apologies. Excuses. I never replied. Months later, I heard they were living together. It didn't last. Affairs built on secrecy collapse under reality. Trust doesn't magically appear once the lying stops. I moved on quietly. New apartment. New routines. New peace. One evening as I unpacked the last box, I found an old photo of Lauren and me from college. Arms around each other. Smiling like the world couldn't touch us. I didn't tear it up. I threw it away. Because some betrayals don't deserve memory. They deserve distance. I learned something through all of this. Revenge doesn't always look like destruction. Sometimes it looks like letting people live with the consequences of who they chose to be. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't beg. I didn't chase. I simply stopped protecting them. And everything they built on my silence collapsed. Some betrayals scream. Mine whispered, planned, and hid behind friendship. And when the truth finally spoke, it didn't need to be loud. It just needed to be final.